Welcome on our second day of the Loma Convivium. Yesterday we had a really inspiring day, and I think today we will make also a second inspiring day. Today the program, if you look on the screen you will see we start with a small thing, a small contribution, and what I like to do is we have only 20 minutes for it, to invite people representing a type of Point Loma activity here in California and give them a few minutes to say what they are, what they do, what they like to do, and what type of ideas they have, so that we get a little bit of an overview what is going on in this part and what type of visions they are living. And in the afternoon we have a discussions group with special subjects, and there we will try to work out some other ideas. So first I have made a small list for a number of people, and we are very happy this morning. He was even earlier than we are on this site, Eldon Tucker. He was coming from LA, special to be here attended today. So I think we will give him the honor to say a little bit about his study group. In 2009, we were invited in his group, and for us it was absolutely the first time. And then we had really the feeling coming home. The atmosphere, the way of study and so on was very close to our way of doing it. So we are enjoying that very much. The first time I met Eldon, it was in the time we were both very young and bright and so, 1988. We're becoming a little bit older, I hope also wiser. So let's see what we can do.
Well, I don't have much to say because I wasn't really prepared to say anything. But we've had two Theosophical classes going on at our house in San Fernando Valley. One of them has been going for maybe 20 years or so, that Richard Hiltner has been coming down from Ojai twice a month to attend. And in that class, we went through studies in occult philosophy and fundamentals of the esoteric philosophy and the 12 ES booklets of GDPs, and we've gotten up to volume 6 of Old Diary Leaves, Henry Olcott's biography, and we've just been reading and discussing them twice a month for several decades. The other class in the esoteric tradition was a class that originally started with the Adjar Lodge of the TS that Jerry Eakins was in charge of, and then the class was at Drais' house for a while, and then it picked up at our house where it was kind of centrally located for everyone that wanted to come, and we've been finishing off volume 2 of the esoteric tradition. So those are the two classes that are happening at our house. And then other things that have been going on over the years are just like early participation of Theosophical things online, like the TSPL email list, which was the first one that was really active, and it had at one point as many as a couple thousand messages coming out every month, and this is before web browsers and web pages became prominent. And then it got a bit too wild, and then the Theos Talk mailing list was started, and that was a further opportunity to discuss theosophy online, but it had a very wide and varied group of people, and they were sometimes a little bit combative, but there were good exchanges of ideas too. And the Theosophy World as a online publication, which was an early way of getting out theosophical material. Some that people had recently written, a lot more that was scanned from older articles in an easy-to-read format in the early days of the internet, where it was coming out in plain text that was all pre-formatted with no graphics or anything, just something that anyone with an email reader could be able to read. And it went for 10 or 15 years or so. It hasn't come out in about a year, but it basically was going to about 1,000, 1,200 people. But what it was doing is something that is getting a bit out of date now that people can search for online content and everyone can have their own blog. And it's very easy to just link together a lot of sources online. There's less of a need for something that gets reformatted and pushed to someone or people every month. Now, more of the connections that people do are in terms of online groups and Facebook groups and very popular blogs where they might add their own comments and stuff, where there's a lot more direct interaction between people and the content of the material. So the internet's growing and changing, and it seems to be the way of the future as far as connecting to people, especially with when our interests are kind of specialized, and it's hard to find a lot of people to form a class in any one physical place. Now, like even with Google Plus, social networking, I was reading that they can support a video chat between up to 10 people at a time, spontaneously. So it's possible to form chat discussion groups where you can see everyone that you might be talking to from anywhere in the world. So now it's publishing isn't as much a thing as it is connecting to people and sharing content. A lot of the expensive publishing is no longer an obstacle anymore. Anyone can produce a book and release it in Kindle or eDoc format, and people can download and get it for free or whatever you want to sell it for in a matter of minutes. But anyway, I don't want to go on and on, but...
Tell them about your time as being on the board of Loma years ago.
Well, I was on the Point Loma Publications board for 17 years, and assistant treasurer for a few of the years, and secretary for a few years. And while I was there, I helped out a bit. I computerized and helped set up a number of books, including some of Geoffrey Farthing's books. And the illustrations in the books I did with Corel Draw, just from looking at how they were supposed to look. And I did some of Gordon Plummer's books, but going to that, it was also a social thing. That Emmett Small was a very outgoing social person that kind of connected to lots and lots of different people all over the world, and he had these nice gatherings anytime someone would come into town, and it was a very nice way of keeping people connected, especially before we had internet and social sites and stuff. Even harder, if you go back a few decades before that, was like Elsie Benjamin with her corresponding Fellows Lodge at Theosophical out of England, where she personally mimeographed a little newsletter of 6, 8, 10, 12 legal-sized pages of material from GDP and of Theosophical interest, and then send them out from her house in somewhere in southern England, all over the world. And that was even much, much harder than modern publishing even.
The first thing we start to do things over more or less over more countries at the same time. So yeah.
But mimeographing was really a lot more work than nowadays. You type something on your computer terminal and it's published to the world in a matter of seconds.
Yeah. Okay. Do you have already experience with putting documents in e-documents on your website and so?
I haven't been doing too much with documents. So when I was doing them for Point Loma publication, I was using WordPerfect because at that time it was a better word processor than Word.
Yeah.
That Microsoft hadn't caught up with them yet.
No.
Since then,
Okay.
no.
Good. Fine. Thank you very much.
No.
Another person is Richard Hiltner. Richard was last year in the ITC conference in The Hague as well. This year he was a speaker in the ITC conference. We met Richard also in the study group of Eldon Tucker. Maybe, Richard, you can add a few words on your idea about Theosophical Point Loma study groups and ideas and what we have to study, why we have to study. Although we have a special presentation from you about the esoteric tradition, so don't say everything forehand.
Can you hear me? Oh, yes. I'm glad Eldon came first because he knows all the details, gets everything in order, is a real computer expert and a real student of Theosophy. So I, yes, have been part of the various study groups with Eldon and other people for about 20, 25 years. And we've gone through a number of the works, especially of GDP. And I must say, this is my favorite person. I'm not saying he's the only person there is, that's for sure. But I only have so much time. And I'm sure everybody else is the same way. And I prefer to be with a person who I highly respect, who I think knows very deeply Theosophy, especially the secret doctrine. I don't think there's anybody out there that has gone through the secret doctrine in the more technical and more difficult areas to make it more clear and organized than G.D. Peruker. So, and because I do not see a lot of study groups with this man, I feel I need to personally, along with my colleagues, etc., to emphasize this teacher who needs to be known and read by every theosophist, in my opinion, no matter what persuasion, because he talks about the secret doctrine, etc., which is a common denominator for, I think, all the organizations. So again, the study group, etc., I do what I can on other things, but that's my main area of interest in keeping. I'm hoping that we can go, although there's discussion on it, I'm hoping we can go to the dialogues next, which is GDP's esoteric section as such, the 3 volumes. Really, these, I think, are some of the very core materials that really, I think, everybody should have some knowledge. So, that's about it. Nothing fancy here. And anything else before?
Thank you very much, Nicolas. Another special couple we have today and also yesterday is Drais and Nicolas. They have done a lot of theosophical work, a little bit more behind the scenes, collected writings of Blavatsky, a lot of work done, special the collected writings of William Quant Jut, collected writings, not a good word, the echoes. New revision is going out, looks perfectly, is on the internet in PDF available. If you want to read and know something about William Quant Jut, I think for me it is an almost a first source to have a look in it. Who of the two like to say something? I presume that one is speaking for the other as well.
Oh, Laura can speak on her own if she likes.
I knew that it is quite a dangerous expression in relationship. Yeah.
There are certain protocols in marriage, and I wanted to actually mention 2 people that did quite a bit for the Point Loma tradition who aren't here. One is Dick Schlusser in Colorado, whose health what is that disease? He's got Parkinson's. He doesn't permit his little High Country Theosophist journal to be printed anymore, but he did a wonderful thing. We had a close to complete original set of GDP's questions we all ask, which is Pasadena to the little abridged version, you know, just tiny. And I thought it was for beginners next to Wind of the Spirit. Great. So Schlusser, on his own with our stuff, made a few photocopy 4-volume set of these, which are very hard to find. But that, plus his journal for 10, 15 years, was a great source and help of getting Peruker's ideas out. The other person, Mark Jacqua, back in Ohio, he knew Cardinal LeGros, Marquita Henry, Old Point Loma folk, and he had a Protagonos, which I'm not sure is still going, a journal, lots of Point Loma Theosophy, plus he's managed to archive and put out. He did a Henry T. Edge collection from Old Point Loma periodicals, a nice little book. Several other things that if you can contact him, it's kind of hard to find because he doesn't have a website or anything, but he puts out all kinds of nice on CDs and DVDs collections of rare Point Loma journals, articles and whatnot. And I always thought the Edge book was great because, Talbot Mundy, he was a big fan of Talbot Mundy, who lived at Point Loma. And Mundy did write a few things about Theosophy, not just stories and fiction. So those two, I think, deserve a little star next to their auras. And you've pretty much heard what we've been involved in. I personally have done some copy editing and proofing of some Mahayana Buddhist texts. And the letters of Blavatsky that Algeo is working on, we helped with volume 1, and I think he's got an inning for maybe one more volume. Algeo, his health is very poor and his wife is gone, who helped him a lot. Anything for you, dear? No? Remind me of anything
Mark Jacqua is on Theosophy Forum if anybody wants to contact him.
He does?
There. He is.
All right, I thought it was kind of a sleepy website. I used to be there. Nick the pilot, okay. So, Regal's there too? Theosophy Forum? Rouser, okay. So go to theosophyforum.com or .net and you can find Jacqua. Forum.
Did you say forum?
Yes. You're there too, maybe? Oh, good. All right. Any questions?
Write out these names, or do you have contact info for us? How to reach them?
I think I'd have to write it out and give, because Schlusser's in Colorado, but I don't remember his address or phone number or email. You might be able to find, I think the High Country, he has an archive online somewhere. So for Schlusser, S-L, that's what I'm trying to do, S-L-U-S-S-E-R. Yeah, Dick.
Something like that. Something like highcountry.com.
Okay, well then later I will.
All his magazines, and they're in PDF form online.
Yeah, there you go. So, but I will try to write out these names. And theosophyforum.com is the discussion group where you can look under members and you'll see Jacqua, Drais, who else did you say? Regal. Regal's not into Peruker much. He's Alice Bailey and things along the Buddhist line. Anything else?
Thank you very much, Nicolas. Another person I just met in this period for the first time in my life, that is John Drais. I will ask John also to say a few words, special on your Theosophical, let's say, links and focus on this. because I know you have a lot of other activities, a very wide study and view. But maybe you can say a little bit about John? You have to be careful. People say, oh, maybe I can say just a little bit. Yeah? We think in minutes on the moment.
It's hard to say just a little bit. Most people keep me off the podium. So I guess I've been involved in Theosophy for about 35, 36 years. Started out with the Ajar group until I met Gordon Plummer. And he says, oh, my dear boy, why don't you find some real Theosophy? So, you know, I searched further and finally ran into Emmett Small and got connected with Point Loma Publications. I was active with Richard Robb in the Secret Doctrine Reference Series, did several books, 2 books with him, several books with Emmett. I think they're still one of them, the Word Wisdom, the Ancient Tradition, I think I helped do some commentaries on. I was fortunate to work with Boris and Dara on some of the last volumes of the collected writing series that had Hebrew in it, so I was called in to do some of the Hebrew commentaries and notations, and that was pretty fortunate. And after being through several of the organizations, we decided what we really wanted to do was set up our own, kind of like Jerry and April. And we wanted to do something slightly different because we really wanted to make a community, and a theosophical community. Part of the problem that Point Loma had was taxation. What really drove them off the property was not being able to pay the property taxes. So how do you get out of paying property taxes became a very great interest to us. And the only way I could find was set up a monastery. A monastery is the only way you can live on a piece of property and not pay property taxes. Well, right away that made us very religious. So we created a Theosophical monastic order. I was running a Quest bookshop, and this rather imposing figure came in on his robes and his Vespa scooter one day and started talking to me, and I said, well, who in the world are you? So he was a Jew from Brooklyn that had become a bishop. He had received consecration in liberal Catholic lineage. So I said, well, here's my perfect opportunity to set up a monastic, Theosophical monastic order. So I joined in there and ultimately even did the unthinkable, became a bishop in the liberal Catholic Church so that I could have the authority with the IRS, that's the Internal Revenue Service, who in this country decides who is a religion and who isn't. So we managed to make a religious organization that has no dogma, has no beliefs, has no practice. We study Theosophy, and we study Theosophy primarily in the Point Loma tradition. We're heavy into Deeper Uker. It's really required reading to go through the Theosophical manuals, the 12 manuals, which I don't know if they're still available now. And the esoteric teachings, we now call it. Used to be esoteric instructions in the beginning. It has been somewhat edited into the current version of the esoteric teachings, and that I'm hoping to work with Point Loma to get that back out into print, since all of the stock burned up at the monastery. And I guess we've made a theosophical organization that everybody must learn some basic theosophy, whether they can tolerate it or not. And we don't care if they believe it. Right? We don't really care what your beliefs are. We don't care whether you're celibate, whether you're not celibate, whether you're male, female. We're not interested. Age doesn't matter. we're totally eclectic. We actually use books from everybody's tradition. I'm particularly interested in Jeffrey Barborca's book, The Divine Plan, which is, I think, the best analytical breakdown of the secret doctrine that exists. He told me once, kind of apologetically, I don't know who's here, but he said I had to join or work with the Adyar Society because there was no other way to get his books published. And he had spent his entire life studying secret doctrine. He was really a magnificent source. So we use that as an introduction into the secret doctrine. And with that, I guess, what else can I say? Yeah. We're open to all traditions, and part of what we push is not only tolerance, but acceptance of everybody's belief system. It really doesn't matter. It really matters what kind of work are you doing in the world, how are you helping, and how are you learning to grow beyond your own selfish little beliefs. So there you have it. Anything else?
Thank you. Thank you, John. Special to see what we can do setting up a center. Another thing is, of course, and maybe it is a good moment to say a little bit about our own activities. And in our own activities, the last years, we cannot exclude our relation with Ken Small, because over the last amount of years, we are becoming more and more one line and working together. So let me say a little bit about the Netherlands. We in the Netherlands are quite an active Point Loma group. In the Netherlands you have of course a number of Theosophical groups, but the Point Loma tradition is quite active. On a yearly basis we do something like 60 to 70 public lectures, study groups. We have courses around in the Netherlands on 7 different places. Our planning involved on a yearly basis something like 600 events over the whole country. So I never dare to say van Herman, can you change a little bit this or that, because I have always to go to Annette Whiskey, because he has the overview. If I say something, oh yeah, it's possible, certainly I will make another problem. Yeah. So we are quite active. We have our own printing activities. We have our audio activities. We have our website. We have our web shop. We have. So we are quite active over there. Some people say you are really a center. And in the last years we are coming more and more, let's say, in working shape with Point Loma publications. We started in 2007 to do the Point Loma archive, digitizing it, scanning it. We are now on more than 400,000 scans. We think that is already quite a lot, but there is much more in the Theosophical world than this archive. So, and I think we hope to do in the coming years much more together with Ken Small in the publication area, and maybe much more in this type of Convivium. Convivium was a new word for Dutch people. We don't use that so much, but well, you learn every day. And it gets by now and doing it also another dimension in it, so we like it very much. So I and I think Ken as well hope to establish quite more, let's say, a relation with all the Theosophical sources and see what we can do in binding them together. Maybe Ken, you like to say a few words as well? Don't be too modest.
Area. Talk about that new Point Loma website that you're going to do.
That's tomorrow. You'll be here tomorrow, Nicolas? All right. Yeah, so this is all since in the last 3 years, a lot of new opportunities and windows of collaboration have opened. Within that, tomorrow we'll talk about the archival project a little bit more. We are also have been working, Herman's been working with this whole group very diligently this past year, or is it a little more, on the 12 esoteric teaching booklets. Is that presented tomorrow also, I think? Yeah, so I'll skip over that a little bit. And then we're also looking at turning some of the publications into ebooks and making them available online that way as well. I don't know, what else?
He's a little bit too. He's a little bit too modest. I can tell you another story. He was in the Netherlands. I think it was 2008, and he was with us for 5 weeks or a little bit over that. And every day we squeeze him out about every document of the archive. And to my big surprise, he was able to give all the answers without consulting any note or book or and so on. So I think this is really what you called a golden source of theosophical information. And we're still working to squeeze him out. And that is the very big advances he have. Is he born in a very strong theosophical family, grow up with people unique in the world, and he think that was normal, common people. And he was thinking that everybody was having a bookshelf from here to there with all the secret doctrines in it. So he needs a little bit of a justification to come more to the, to the common world. But I must say, Ken, you really impressed me in that 5 weeks. Really was true. Yeah, I was very amazed. And we hope to work it out in more, let's say, readable forms, but it takes some time.
I have to tell one short story. I usually don't do this. So you have to realize how difficult it would be to see the world this way. So I think I was 7 years old. And of course, we lived in a very normal, very middle class, at that time probably mostly very Christian, of course, neighborhood, which I was totally oblivious to. And I had a friend over, and I pulled off the shelf. I said, "This is the most important book in the world," you know, because I've heard them talking at dinner about this. I think Drais had visited, or any number of other people, you know, and I handed him the secret doctrine, and they were horrified. He went home and told his mother and said, "No, it wasn't the Bible, you know."
Good. Fine, thank you very much.